Welcome to Blue Nebula, where we analyze our favorite movies in 15 minutes or less, so you can say you watched it without really watching it.
All the leaves are brown.
My name's Carson Messerschmidt, and today we're looking at Blue Velvet, written and directed by David Lynch, released in 1986. This movie is a blend of different genres. It's a psychological, noir mystery is how I would describe it. Our movie opens in small-town America with bright colors, white picket fences, smiling neighbors. The old man here notices a pain in his neck. As he's watering the grass, he has a stroke that fades into these bugs acting like they're in the WWE. Jeffrey leaves, and on his walk home, accidentally stumbles upon a bug-ridden detached human ear. He picks it up to save for later, where he meets Detective Williams, a friend of his father's, where he shows him his new toy. The pair get the ear tested and find out that whoever's ear it is still alive somewhere. Later that night, as Jeffrey is catching some fresh air,
My knees, and I pretend to pray. You know the preacher likes to
emerging from the darkness, the detective's daughter, Sandy, follows him. She makes herself known when she tells him that there's a woman who lives in the apartment complex next to where the ear was found, and that the police have had 24 surveillance on her for a few months. This gets Jeffrey going. He's a big Scooby-Doo fan, so him and Sandy go to the apartment to scope it out. Sandy wimps out though, and they decide to try it another night. The next day, Jeffrey takes Sandy out to lunch, where he tells her his plan. He's going to pretend to be a bug guy and spray the woman's apartment, and leave one of her windows open to sneak back in later, that night to investigate. With a girlfriend's older brother, Jeffrey is ultimately cock-blocked by Big Bird here, so he's not able to get the window open. It's not a total failure though, as he was able to snatch a pair of her keys before he left.
California dreaming on such a winter's day. Stopped into a
Wait. Here's to an interesting experience, huh?
I'll drink to that.
You never had Heineken before?
My dad drinks Bud.
King of beers.
It's finally time Jeffrey impresses Sandy with his knowledge of beer, especially Heineken. When the stage lights up showing the blue woman, it's the woman from the apartment she's singing up on stage. Knowing that she's occupied, the pair sneaks out and makes a dash for the woman's apartment. Jeffrey breaks in, and after a few too many Heinekens, he relieves himself, pissing all over the poor woman's toilet seat. As he's distracted, he doesn't hear Sandy's warning of the woman coming home. He scurries into the closet to try and hide. Jeffrey is a bad boy though, and all he can do is be quiet and watch the woman move around her apartment. Jeffrey's not super good at the first part, and after a few minutes, the woman slams open the closet and pulls a knife out on our boy. He explains who he is, and how he just wanted to see her, when suddenly someone else is coming into the apartment. This piece of human garbage is Frank, a drug-addicted, mood-swing-ridden pervert who is holding the poor woman's husband and son hostage so he can do with her what he pleases. Just a fair warning, if you're watching this movie on your own, there's a lot of graphic and very crazy scenes right here with Frank and the woman. Pure evil, there's no other way to describe it, so just be careful if you're watching on your own. But Frank cries and calls the woman Mommy, and finally we learn her name is Dorothy. He leaves us in a drug rage when Jeffrey comes out of the closet to confront the poor woman. Jeffrey's a sweetheart. I think we all should try to be a little like Jeffrey. He's slowly starting to have feelings about Dorothy, and the next night goes to see her sing when in the large crowd he sees Frank. Jeffrey's heart is filled with rage. He's pissed seeing Dorothy's abuser only feet from him. Frank leaves and Jeffrey follows him to try and find Dorothy's family that Frank is holding hostage. After a day of following around Frank and his goons and taking pictures, finally goes and tells Sandy what he saw. He saw the Yellow Man, as he calls it. I like the name Big Bird more, but he's the guy from the apartment earlier we saw with the big yellow coat on, and he's walking with Frank at an abandoned factory downtown. From the rooftop, they stand above a murder being investigated by the police. They then find out that Frank and Big Bird stole the drugs from the man who's dead who's being investigated by the police. Sandy is worried, hearing how Jeffrey's entire world is now engulfed in this mystery. He can't stop. He won't stop. It's all he thinks about, all he's obsessed with. Just as Jeffrey is talking, his second girlfriend telling Dorothy he knows about her being held hostage and her son and husband. As he drops the news, Frank and the boys pop in to say hello. Frank is furious, but no matter. They're gonna go to Ben's to party.
Frank's here. For Ben, too. What kind of beer do you like? Heineken? Fuck that shit! Pabst Blue Ribbon!
Jeffrey tries his beer knowledge on Frank, but he doesn't find it as cool as Sandy did.
Suave? God damn, you're one suave fuck.
Told you Ben was suave.
Paul, what's your name?
For the second time, Paul tells Jeffrey who he is. These boys are super duper drunk. There's no sense in them. Anyways, all the dudes cheer to how suave Ben is with their beers. Paul can't get over it. Jeffrey overhears Frank and the suave men talking about Gordon and how he's the one who took away the drugs. Jeffrey starts piecing together that he must be Big Bird. Dorothy goes and sees her kid. The sound of her crying really messes with Jeffrey's head. The suave man then puts down a nice little drug-influenced concert for Frank and the boys. This one really tugs on Frank's heartstrings. Frank is a little bit excited. Ben's singing has gotten him into the mood for a nice lady. Frank needs a hit, and he's off to play with Jeffrey. He gets all prettied up, smearing red lipstick all over his face, and starts kissing Jeffrey. I think they finally made up and are starting to get along now. Frank really lets his heart be heard to Jeffrey. It's kind of romantic. And Dreams by Roy Orbison is playing in the background. Frank starts beating Jeffrey as the song ends, and we can hear Dorothy plead for him to stop, and then he's knocked out cold. Scene fades from black to show Jeffrey beaten to a pulp in a random ditch. They beat him really bad. He calls Sandy and walks back to his house.
Since they say that many marriages are set by people.
Love you, but you're gonna get it.
He's exhausted, not in the mood for any of Grandma's crap. He goes back into the police station to see the detective when he accidentally turns a corner, and oh god, it's Big Bird. He's a cop, a very corrupt cop. Jeffrey doesn't know who he can trust. Everyone around him is corrupt except Sandy. He goes to Sandy's father, the detective, and finally shows him all the evidence he's been collecting. The detective says he's going to tell Jeffrey and bring him back in for questioning. The detective is scared for his daughter and makes her swear that she has nothing to do with this. Friday night comes around. Jeffrey's at Sandy's house picking her up. When out of nowhere, out of the detective's office, Big Bird comes out. Jeffrey starts freaking out. The detective slowly calms him down. Jeffrey can't tell what angle he's playing, but he's going to take Sandy and try to have a good time at the party and not think about Big Bird. After a night of dancing, the couple leaves the party when out of the rearview mirror, there's a car trying to run them off the road. Jeffrey thinks it's Frank and starts freaking out knowing that the kids are dead. Turns out to be Mike, Sandy's ex-boyfriend. He's drunk, he pulls Jeffrey out of the car in front of his house, about to beat his ass on the front porch. When oh my god, it's Dorothy. She's butt-ass naked and covered in bruises. They wrap her up and take her to Sandy's, bringing the naked women into the house, where Sandy realizes he's been sticking both hands into different honey jars. Both the women start crying as they both yell how they love Jeffrey. And Dorothy cries about a man who's being beaten and pleads with Jeffrey to save him. Sandy slaps him and Jeffrey leaves with Dorothy to the hospital. He calls Sandy from the hospital and tells her how much he loves her and that he's going to the apartment. Sandy calls her father immediately. The police can't locate her father though. In the meantime, Jeffrey tightens his big boy pants and opens the door to his apartment. He's terrified though. He walks in to see Big Bird standing up and Dorothy's husband tied to the chair. Big Bird is like a walking corpse. The camera turns, revealing that the man in the chair is missing an ear. As he's standing there, Big Bird scares the jimmies out of Jeffrey. There's a radio in Big Bird's pocket. From the radio, we hear the detective. Him and the other cops are at Frank's place in a shootout with Frank and his cronies. They're not doing very well though. As we can see, there's a lot of dead cops on the street. Jeffrey leaves the apartment. He's leaving Big Bird and the man to be found by the cops. As he's walking down the stairs, he sees the other man from the photos with Frank. It's the Lorax. Frank is dressed as the Lorax. He spots Jeffrey and starts running up the stairs. Jeffrey's in a dead sprint. He goes back into the apartment and takes the radio and calls the detective for help. He hides and breaks into the apartment when Frank calls him out and reveals he has a police radio and heard everything that Jeffrey just said to the detective. Especially, most importantly of all, where Jeffrey's hiding in the small apartment. Frank toys with Jeffrey. He takes one deep hit and charges to the back room to kill Jeffrey, but he's not there. He's hiding and steals Big Bird's pistol. Jeffrey draws the revolver as Frank takes a hit and walks closer to the closet. Jeffrey unloads a bullet straight into Frank's forehead, killing him instantly, spurting blood everywhere. The detectives and Sandy come busting through the door, guns drawn. It's all over. Sandy forgives Jeffrey and kisses him and hugs him close in the hallway. Jeffrey wakes up on a bright green lawn in a nice chair. Sandy and his parents are hanging out all around the house. The final scene of the movie is a robin with a beetle in its mouth. To me, it symbolizes Jeffrey being the robin, and it's the same beetle that we saw from earlier when his dad had his stroke. And Jeffrey kind of defeating that evil that nobody knew about, and now they finally are all at peace. This has been a look at Blue Velvet, one of David Lynch's most famous masterpieces. I hope you guys really liked it. Thanks for watching. See you next time.